Well, hi, good morning. Thanks so much for joining me in my shop here with Shadow and a record player to work on. Today is March 9th. The last couple of days I've been a little slow at posting videos, not because I haven't been working hard, it's because I've been trying to do videos from a new location. So the last video I posted is kind of a poor example of of my other location, which I'm working on. So okay, so I'm finished with the last radio and starting on this record player, but at the same time I've acquired a new video camera, which I've been attempting to test, and I'm going to show you the results. So this is the camera I usually use here, my cat, and I'm going to switch to the other camera. It's almost in exactly the same spot. The part at the bottom is just a reflection. You just ignore that. It's just the way I have the camera set. But look at the camera image itself. I'm going to switch back and forth. So this is a LifeCam Cinema Microsoft camera. No, it isn't actually. This is a Logitech C290, a well-known, well-liked camera. And this one, it looks almost exactly the same. Costs less than a quarter of the first one. Look at that. But here's something about it. Let me just go back to the first camera. It's very hard to find cameras that work really well. See the nice smooth movement of my hand, and also Shadow's head. See that? A little bit of synchronization there. Now look at the other camera. Same thing. Yeah, see that? So that's how they achieve the higher definition by slowing the frame rate down. Now right in the booklet, all the information says it can achieve 30 frames a second at high definition, but I tried and tried and tried with this camera. It can't do it. So there's your lesson. You get what you pay for. Now let's take a look at this record player. So this has come out of a console. I have the receiver, but it's still in the console. And the console, well, what can I tell you? Let's start right here. You see the word stereo there, nicely written right on top where it's easy to see. Who could miss that? If you looked into the console and saw this record player and see stereo, you know, it's a stereo console. If you went so far as to be suspicious and decide you want to check the cartridge, you'd find out there's 4 wires. It's stereo. It's stereo. But the console is not stereo. The console is stereo ready. So we got to think back to when this was being built and the console that it's in. You can imagine everything's mono with just one set of speakers, no left channel, no right channel. Record players, records, everything mono. And so they're happily producing stuff, factories running, people working, materials being purchased and put together to make consoles, mono consoles. One day in a sales meeting, one of the salesmen says, more and more people are asking us, why should I buy this mono thing? Because I heard about this thing called stereo that's coming, they say just a few years. Everything's going to be stereo, without even really knowing what it is. Now the poor manufacturer's in quite a problem here. He's got suppliers, he's got factories, he's got people, he's got machines being built, machines that are built, machines that are out for sale. And in every case they're mono, and people are coming up and going, like, why would I buy this? Shouldn't I just wait a few years? So out came the concept of stereo ready. This is a stereo ready. This is stereo. The console is stereo ready. And what's that mean? That means it's actually a mono console, one set of speakers, but it can be sold as a stereo ready. Stereo ready. The word ready, you just kind of drop that a little bit. What does stereo ready really mean? So we have a cartridge here, but the console it's in is mono. So probably they joined the wires together, maybe under here somewhere, to so the both channels, left channel, right channel, are being fed to the mono and come out of the one speaker, and so you can listen to both channels on the mono. Seems kind of counterproductive. Why not just do a mono thing all the way here? But that wouldn't be stereo ready. If you short these together so the two channels are now one channel, it's no longer stereo ready. So what makes it stereo ready is if you send one channel from here down to the console and the other pair out to the back to some terminals on the back. The actual wires coming from the cartridge end up on the back. So this is the wire that's going into the receiver. This is the one channel that's going there. The other one, I've cut the wire here, and did I cut it? How short did I cut it? Very short. So another wire, a long wire, just like this, wraps itself around the inside of the console and ends up at some terminals on the back. And I'll show you a photograph of this. There's a little sticker right beside the terminals that says stereo amplifier. So in the sales environment, when they were selling this, the husband and wife looking at it, thinking about dropping a lot of money into this console, and the wife saying, but I heard this thing about stereo. The husband says, don't worry, it's stereo. I can see it. Salesman gets quiet now. And the intelligent buyer says, yeah, let's just check. Yeah, 4 wires. It's a stereo unit, all right. Now, if they do discover it's stereo ready, then they'll be told, don't worry, 2 or 3 years from now, you can come buy a small amplifier and another speaker, and you can hook it up and you can have the stereo. This is stereo ready. The part that's missing in the whole story is only one channel is hooked up to the console. So if you play a stereo record with this record player in that console, you hear one channel. I don't know which one, the left or the right. Just one channel. Now that's kind of crazy, isn't it? Wouldn't they figure that out pretty quick? So I shouldn't have done that. No, the answer is no, they won't, because the vast majority of records were mono records. So you put the mono record on, the sound comes out one channel. What does it matter? It's the same sound. It's only when you get around to putting a stereo record on here, and how many people would even notice that one channel's missing if you've never heard that channel. Every time you play your record, one day you take your record over to your friend's place with a real stereo, your head probably comes off. What? I never heard all that. So that's a long, drawn-out story, half made up by me, about stereo-ready consoles. Okay, so I have a few photographs. Maybe I'll just put them in the video right at this point, and you can take a look at the photographs of this guy. Get a little more focused on the record player here. So I've heard this record player play. It does play. I've also operated it mechanically, and it's fine mechanically. It works in all regard. I think what we really need to do is assess the cartridge, and the needle in particular is really where we got to go with this. Well, I'm going to guess the needle has never been changed from day one. Let's take a look at it. I may actually have a new needle. Let's see, this is a flip cartridge. This is the 78 side. It says 78 up here. Has a different needle. The needle's there. Okay, so we're gonna go right ahead and pop the needle out. Yeah, pop. That really did pop. Okay. And we're going to have to look at this under a microscope. Ooh! I don't think there's any needle left, just looking at it with my eyes. Yeah, okay, let me get the microscope out and we'll take a good look at it. Okay, here's the microscope. There's the cat. Here's the needle. I'm going to put it in looking straight up. Okay, let's take a look at what we see here. What do we see? What are we looking at there? Oh my gosh. Huh. Okay, let me get it sideways here. Just need a little bit of tape to help out with that. What I can do here, what I'll try anyway, I'll just use the sticky side of the tape to hold this on an angle. Just gotta get a little tape. Sticks to my finger. There we go. I can get my fingers off it now. There. Okay, let's take a look at that. We get kind of a side view of it here. Wow. Again, what exactly are we seeing there? Pretty sure that's a totally worn out needle. So needles wear out in a couple of ways. One is they physically wear down in the groove and get smaller and smaller and change their shape. Eventually don't really ride in the groove properly. Another way is the needle gets broken right off the end, right off the holder through some accidental rugged handling. That's my cat doing that now. He's going to get it stuck on his nose any minute. We're fighting now. We're fighting for it. Look, I got my finger stuck on there. I'm going to get my finger out of there again. You're causing problems, Shadow. There. A little hard. Whoop. Oh, well, okay. Well, while she's working on the needle, I'm going to see if I can find another one that we can at least try as an experiment. Let me check it out. Easy on that. Easy. Easy, Kevin. Okay, let's see what we can find in here. The Walsco Electronics Phono Drive Kit. So no needles in here. All kinds of drive wheels. Hey, there's a cartridge. There are cartridges in here. I don't look in here very often. Well, that's nice. So I guess what I've done is I tossed them in here. Here's the one. No, that's a different style. There's a thousand styles of cartridges here. No, not in here. A division of Hydro Metals Incorporated. Main plant in Rockford, USA. Eastern plant in Hicksville. Hicksville. Who named their community Hicksville? I shouldn't say it. I grew up in a town called Beamsville. So we'll just look through here. Look at this. Bingo. These look brand new. These look brand new. Excellent. So I think that's a needle right there. I don't think I have to look too much further, but why not? All kinds of little wheels. So anything I get that has to do with record players goes in this bucket here. Springs, belts, more cartridges here. No needles in there. And some brand new needles. Still in the package. It's very confusing trying to pick the right needle for something because there were so many manufacturers I don't think there's anything in here. There are so many manufacturers. It's nothing. They have their own numbering systems. So okay. It's always good to look through these things once in a while. Get to know what you got. It's got some tiny screws in it, not much else. There's some more. Not exactly sure what those would be for. Here's something a little interesting. I bought a whole bunch of these. These are drum sensors. Well, they can be used in various places. One place is in electronic drums. Inside the drum is this. When you're whacking on the drum, you're whacking on this piezoelectric piece here. I bought a bunch of these because I was going to use them to repair the old style cartridges. Well, like this kind of cartridge. Or one similar to this. The inside is completely shot. You can cut and replace it with one of these if you're really clever. I haven't tried yet because I don't think I'm that clever. But at some point I may be forced into it. There's another needle. Another needle there. But not at all the right kind. Oh, that's the right kind. I think that's brand new. Not the right kind here. Yeah, so if you wanted to have a complete set of needles, there's a lot more than this. I think it's empty. Lots of empty ones. Ooh, cartridge. So I got a needle. I got a couple possibilities here for needles. That's really all I need. Up here. Okay. Good. Let's see what we can do here. Is this exactly the same? Don't see a number on it. And the one I had, Shadow, what did you do? What did you do with the one I had? It's still stuck here. So I'm looking at the length. Looks pretty good. The clamping plate here looks just a little bit different in size. No, I don't think so. I think it's a perfect. Now I got a cartridge too. Let's look at how this is mounted in here. So it's a flip. So they have to have the cartridge somehow fixed in a rotating arrangement here. It's tricky because you know what, cartridge can't be loose, right? It has to be fixed pretty good. The cartridge seemed to be okay. The difficulty, I think, was in the needle. What is this? What is this arrangement here? Oh my gosh, that's a switch. That's a switch from stereo to mono. I think that's what that is. I think that's a switch. Let's see if we can get a little closer here. Switch is there, and the last position it gets hung up. No, that's the end of it. So that's like in the open. That's on one terminal. This must be a switch. That whole story I told was complete crap. They incorporated a switch in here. It looked to me like it was in the nothing position. Oh, nothing or something. So it's probably nothing, 4 channels. Then you switch it over here, if you can do it, onto that drum. Then you probably have 2 channels. Yeah, there's a problem with this. There's a problem with this. How can that be? Is that what this? I'm just guessing that's what this does. I've never seen a switch on the side of a tone arm before. Shadow, what is it? What is it, man? Girl? Cat? What is it? She's never seen one like this either. I guess I don't really want to do it. Drop these 2 screws and see what's going on. I think it'd be better just to experiment with it. That's really quite odd. Because if you just, like from up here, you can't see what's going on. So if you throw the lever from one extreme to the other, it's just nothing. You got to stop in the middle. Why do they have this terminal you can't reach? Why do they even have it up here? Oh, look. Oh, I got it. Okay, I see now what's going on. So 2 wires are coming up here, meeting this terminal and soldered together. That terminal is tied to this metal band here that's going across. The metal band is making a slip contact with the switch lever, which is then selecting off, and sort of on in the middle. So it's connecting these wires to this. I don't know what it's doing. Now, you know, I played this, it played, so the switch was here, I'm pretty sure. In contact with nothing. Well, I would guess that's the stereo mode. And if you do that, you shorted it into mono. Mr. Telefunken, what are you up to? Okay, so now this has got 2 needles. One is going to be, well, these look identical. This might have 2 diamond needles on it. The old 78 records weren't as resilient as the newer records that came out, vinyl records. And if you dragged a tiny sharp needle through it, you cut the record. So the 78 needle is actually a bit dull. It's a bit big and dull to go into the big dull 78 record tracks. You can't use it on a modern record, microgroove record, because it's too dull and it won't go down into the groove deep enough. So if you do use it, the sound will be crappy at best, or the needle may, or the toner may skip over the record, just skip over it. From something called skating force. I'm trying to decide what to do. Open this package, it's brand new. It's never been opened. I'll go after this one, and this cartridge won't be useful. It's exactly the same back. They're not identical cartridges. Very, very similar though. Here you can see how the gripping is done. Up through here, there's a couple screws going up here. There'll be a screw mounts inside the head here. And it can rotate on the shaft. Now I'm going to open this up. I got to know for sure these are the correct. This is the correct needle. This one's got quite a bit of writing on it. Right on the actual needle. And one's gone completely dark. I wonder why that is. Made of a different material. So this looks, again, looks like it would just pop on. And you see in the... I need my close-up camera. Okay, gotta stop the show. Fetch my close-up camera. Okay, so I'm going to take them out of the package here. Astatic, known the world over. Diamond. Diamond. So are both these the same? How can they be the same? They don't look the same, that's for sure. $9.95. It's not terribly cheap. 0.7 mil diamond for record stereo LP. Oh, that's strange. Maybe this has been opened. No, I don't think so. Okay, don't understand why there's 2 different looking needles in here. We only need one. We only need the... oh boy, look this. I'm opening this up. I don't know, it's a piece of history, right? Maybe I better pop this one off. And I pop one of these off. Okay, changed my mind. I just can't. I can't decide. Jeepers creepers. It's gonna go flying. There we are. Okay, decision made. Didn't go in there. There we go. Now, didn't I say something about getting my close-up camera? So this one is the 78 side, even though it doesn't really look like a 78. I'll flip it there. I guess you could put two we gotta look at that more closely. You could put 2 diamond needles on either side, I guess, if you really wanted to. So what I've done here now is I've put both needles, the old and the new one, under here so we can look at the two and compare them. Let's take a look. What the heck? Oh, good. Okay, so I couldn't see the needle on the upper one. I thought it was missing. There you go. So these two things should look pretty much identical. Boy, do they not look identical. So looking at the upper one, which is brand new, it's clearly brand new. What you're seeing there is a shaft, and then you see a cone on the top. What you're still having trouble seeing here is at the very top of that cone is the diamond. I don't know if I get it clear enough to be seen here. You can kind of see towards the top of the cone shape. It looks like a transition takes place. There's a line there or something. It's really hard to see. That whole thing is not diamond though. Just the very, very tip is diamond. And the rest of it is intended to hold on to that diamond. Because there's quite a force. When you drag this through a record, there is quite a force trying to pull that needle right off the end of the end of it. So now if we finish looking at that one very closely, if we look at the other one, it would look to me like what has happened is it's worn down all the way past the needle, right down through the that clear material that's clear on the other needle, and that's what you're running on. And then I'm going to guess that the needle itself isn't the only thing touching the record, that the cantilever arm back where the wings are, those wings are supposed to grab the moving part in the cartridge, and that's what's actually transmitting the groove motion through those tabs into a little fixture. Oh, I keep intending on putting my close-up camera on this, but I haven't yet. So yeah, think that's going to make a difference in the record? Oh my gosh, yes. Huge difference. Huge difference. So a needle like this, a diamond needle, is good for about 1,000 LP sides. So that's 20 minutes of music. You play the whole record, it's 40 minutes. So you're going to do 1,000 sides. That would be like 300 hours. Or you can think of it this way. You play a record a day. That's 350 records a year. So if you play a record a day, both sides, you can play records for about a year and a half before you should change the needle. You can imagine most of these really old vintage needles have a lot more mileage on them than that. Okay, I'm going to pop this in now. I think maybe I want to, yeah, I do want to get the close-up camera and take a close look at this before we pop in the piece. Okay, we'll take a close look at it here, just to see what can be seen. Now let's just, are these wires all shorted back here? Just give myself a little more light. No, they're wired independently, individually. So coming off the back here, it's definitely stereo. Oh, I don't think that's supposed to look that horrid. Is that dirt way up in there? Oh my, look at it. Now, is that something that I should be cleaning out ahead of time? Or just don't play with it because it's fragile. And it's not dirt. Well, I don't want to play with it. There's a kind of a rubber piece, if you like, a rubber finger that sticks down. And those wings on the needle, it kind of goes like this. And that's the whole grip between the needle, this is the needle here, and the cartridge. And this thing doesn't look like a nice, neat thing. It looks like a big blob of junk. I don't think there's much we can do about that. I don't want to try. Pop this needle in now. That's all there is to it. Well, obviously we have to play this now to find out what's going on. That's going to take a little bit of setting up here on my part to figure out how to do that exactly. Okay. Okay, let's try this out now. I noticed earlier the overarm. Can you see there's finger grips here? Maybe you can see them in the camera. That's an invitation to do this and not this. This is not good. Don't do this. This, not so bad. This, the best. So lift it up, swing it over. What I noticed is it kind of locks over here pretty firmly. Well, I guess you just lift it up to unlock it, but if you lift it up all the way, it's locked again. There's a sweet spot here. You lift this up a little bit and it comes across. I'm sure that's not intentional. I'm sure they want it to work differently. So if you're not familiar with this kind of record player, this is what is going to tell the record player there's no more records left. And it's going to tell it by dropping below the rest point here. That's enough mechanically down here. There's an actuator going on. You can actually see it on this record player. A lot of these are really hard to look at the mechanism and recognize it for what it is. Can you see it here? I think you can see it now. You can see this part? So it comes down, there's still a record, it will stop here. Still clearance. But with no record, it will go down. Push this lever down. And it's swinging an arm up here doing something. Allowing the mechanism to advance as if a record's there. Otherwise, it goes into shut off mode. Okay. It doesn't sound great, does it? Now this little guy is a feeler. He's going to feel for the record. There's quite a bit of wear on the top of it. So I'm going to put a small record on. If I put a 10-inch or even smaller record on, this thing will not feel the record because the record doesn't come over the edge. But I put a large record on, like this, the feeler will feel it. And then that'll tell the tone arm to stop out here and not come all the way in on a smaller record. It'll stop out here from the little feeler arm. So we're set to 33. The audio is being fed into the sound system you're listening to, not right at the moment, but it will when I turn the levels up. I'll listen with headphones here so I can hear it too. The levels and the tone quality may not reflect what this really sounds like back in the stereo because there's equalization issues about this and I don't know what they've done. So we'll just hear it for what it is. First of all, how much hum? Almost no hum. That's good. Very good. Okay, so we'll flip it on here. Oh, power. I gotta make sure the power's turned on. I'm not going to get anywhere without that. 119 volts coming at it. Here we go. Can't play too much of this because I will get a copyright hit, which is another thing I've been struggling with quite a bit lately. Copyright hits on YouTube. So clearly it's working. Like I said, the sound quality, we can't really bank on what we heard here. If you notice, the mechanism worked just perfectly. The most important thing is I'm going to put this right at the end of the record. I'm going to let it pick it up on its own. When it picks it up, you get two opportunities. One is you get a visual opportunity to see if the record continues at its regular speed or if it slows down. If it slows down, that indicates the mechanism is laboring under moving the tone arm. And that might indicate some problems in the mechanism with slippage and things like that. The other thing you get is for just a fraction of a second, as the mechanism engages, often the needle is still on the record. But it won't be playing. I was going to say something here that's not true. I was going to say you can, if it lifts off in the middle of the record, you'll hear a slight slowdown in the speed of the record at the last moment. So what, Jim? I don't know. well, first of all, let's make this go manually. So I'm going to put this on. So just before it picked it up, you might have heard the tone go down. What was that funny skid sound there? Don't know. Let's check it to make sure it knows there's no record now. There's no record to drop. Put it on. Should just come up and go back down. Quite a sound comes out of it there at one point. And I'm going to put this right over, without it spinning, right near the end here. Okay, we're going to let it finish off. Oh, how do you work this manually? Well, that's an interesting question. Can you even work this player manually? I'm pretty sure it's going to... I'm not sure what it's going to do. Let's find out. I mean, you don't normally start up a record in the middle. Going to come over again. So the reason it came over all this way was there's another record feeler in here. So I didn't tell all the truth here. Let's hope that doesn't... That's enough to give me a copyright hit. So there's another feeler out here. I didn't tell the story properly. So this one is feeling the large record. The large record comes down, hits this toggle. If it doesn't hit it, now the player wants to know, is it a 10-inch record? A 10-inch record is going to be just over top here. I don't think I have a 10-inch handy. So it won't hit this, but this will come up and feel the 10-inch. It knows it's a 10-inch. But if this comes up and doesn't feel a record, and this doesn't get hit by a record dropping, then the record must be an even smaller one. It must be the 45. And so then the tone arm will come over this far. So it has three, come over this far, come over this far, or come over this far. 3 different sizes. I guess the record playing industry was kind of annoyed with all these different sizes of records. Now what am I trying here? I was going to try to get it. I wanted to come up at the end. Okay, so we'll put the record on. So you cannot turn this on, just turn it on. Well, if this is out here, it's held up. If it's held up, the record player thinks there's records dropping. Now, a lot of people would think the reason the record player picks up at the end is because the tone arm has traveled far enough to hit a trigger. But that's not actually what's happening. It's more clever than that. What's happening is the record player is sensitive to the speed at which the tone arm is traveling across the record. Believe it or not. When the normal grooves, it's traveling very, very slowly. And the record player is going to ignore that. But if it senses that this is traveling at a higher speed, then it will try lifting it up. That's why when you swing one of these towards these grooves, the mechanism leaps into action before it gets there. Because it's not where it is, it's how fast you're moving it. And this velocity sensitive system only works in the last, say, third of the record. So let's try it. See nothing happening? Now I won't go over the center groove, I'll just go here. This record player will prove me a liar. You're lying, Jim. Look at you, liar. Gotta go a little closer. Okay, so there's a demonstration. Excellent. So now it sensed there's a record. It didn't. This sensor didn't go. But the other sensor went, and so it's playing a 10-inch out here. We might as well check the whole thing. We'll put it back here. Put this up here. We'll fool it into thinking a record is there by leaving the tone arm up. This time neither this detector nor this one will feel a record, and it should come in all the way to here. I better grab it. I'll ruin my new needle. There it is. So it's come in there. So it can start here, or start out here, depending upon the size of record, based on these sensors. And the velocity thing that I tried to explain, but demonstrated. Otherwise, don't do that. So that's how needles get ruined, just like that. There we go. Well, everything's good. I think I'm going to do a little bit of lubrication underneath. All I wanted to do was play the record, find out the speed sounded right. There was no wow. I was listening for all these things. Do that short, brief test, and that the needle actually works and the cartridge makes sound. It's all done. It's all thumbs up. Just some lubrication here. Let's see if I can tip this like this. Not very good. Okay, so we're going to flip it right upside down. Precarious position. Holy smokes. It's going to get ripped off. There we are. I'll leave it like that. Hey, we still have the switch to figure out on the tone arm. This side switch, which I didn't do anything with while we played the record. So looking under here, what I see is it looks like there's no lubrication in here at all. It looks like it's just dry like a bone. So I'm looking along areas like this. Should be some lubrication right here for the slide. And there's just nothing has lubrication. This should all be lubricated here. Now when it comes to the actual tone arm, lubrication, maybe not. So you can't see what I'm doing here. I'm just swinging the tone arm lightly back and forth and watching what's going on here and looking for what might. So this is part of the velocity mechanism here. This part. As the tone arm moves towards the center of the record, this little lever here starts pushing on this. See? Pushing it over. This in turn is pushing this guy over here. There's a slip or a friction arrangement in here. They're not fixed together. There's a friction. And there's a spring here controlling the friction. You don't want to put any oil in here. So the tone arm pushes this. This moves this. As the record comes around, this gets kicked back. It's a kickback. It kicks it back a little bit. And then this tries to push it again. Kick it back, push it again, kick it back. It's kicking it back each time around enough that this, I don't know what to call it, engager up here won't engage. Never gets moved far enough to engage something. But if you move the tone arm fast enough, this will move fast enough, this will move fast enough to get far enough in before the record comes around again and kicks it out, that it'll engage with the mechanism. So there's a kicker kicking it out. And when it moves in slowly, it keeps getting kicked away. But if it moves in quick enough, it gets in there, hits the mechanism, and triggers the return of the tone arm. Velocity sensor. Many of them are a little different style of record players, have different styles. That's interesting. Here's the motor. You can see the windings on the motor. They're right exposed here. You actually see a little bit of copper in there. So now the motor has a bearing here that's probably worth lubricating. I mean, just looking at everything else, and this is all dry in here. So interesting enough, there's oil there. I have fresh oil right here. And what is that part exactly? So if you think I understand these mechanisms from start to finish, no, not at all. I kind of understand them at a bit of a high level, but specifically, why is that spring there? I don't know. These are all a little bit different. So the idea that you're going to know all this. So this looks like the speed adjuster. Let me look under here. Okay, we'll try the speed adjustment. Yeah. It's another thing that's working, feels like it's working really well with no lubrication, which is so surprising. So what it's actually doing, if you watch this part here, you'll see that it's going up and down. It's rising up. Okay, those are the different speeds. There's a drive wheel up in here. You can't see it too well. And that wheel is being moved up and down. It's contacting the shaft of the motor. The shaft of the motor is sticking down there where that big rubber wheel is going to bump into it. And the shaft has different diameters. So as you change the speed, you move the contact wheel up onto these different diameters. And that causes a different drive speed from the motor. The motor's always running at the same speed. It never changes. Synchronous motor, it's locked into the 60 cycles. It should be locked into the 60 cycles. So it should be really hanging on to a very set speed, these kinds of motors. They usually need pretty heavy lubrication all through this mechanism because it's kind of chunky, right? I mean, it's chunky. We're trying to move things up and down. But in this player, it's really surprising that such bad lubrication. Lots of other little mechanisms here. I don't know what they are exactly. But, you can do what I'm doing. You just kind of wiggle things a little bit and look for what's moving. Look for evidence of previous lubrication. Don't lubricate everything offhand. That's not a good idea. There's a few things that should not get lubricated. In particular, this part here. Right in here. Should not be lubricated. Okay, I think that's pretty much a... I'll get my lubricants out and we'll do it. So first thing I'm going to do is apply some grease. I use synthetic grease here. And I'm just looking for places where I know pieces are sliding over pieces and I can see the old grease. We'll just put a little bit in. Looks like somebody applied it originally with a brush. And the new lubricant can kind of wake up, look at the old stuff coming up, wake up the old lubricant. I guess you could take time and clean it all off. In some cases you have to, because the old lubricant, it turns into a glue. Slide right in there. So a lot of things you have to put oil, not grease. Grease is more for things that are sliding over top of each other, or places where things are sliding over top of each other. The oil is better penetrating into sleeves and things like that. It's really pretty good. Over here. Again, just mimicking where I can see that it was greased originally. Very common thing in these is the maybe not this particular kind of player, but the they won't shut off because the on-off switch won't be activated properly. I'm looking for the on-off switch in here. Where is the on-off switch? I've done some. Oh, okay. I've done something here with the. No, these are motor lines. This is motor. This must be going up to the... Where is that going? Where's the on-off switch on here? It's this mechanism, this lever. What I'm looking for is the on-off switch. Oh, I can hear it. I think that's it I'm hearing. Looks like it's down under here. It's here. It's in. This is it here. Oh, I'm all excited. You can't even see it. This plastic piece here is actually the top of a switch. There's a switch right in here, and that's where the mechanism is. You can see the lever swinging back and forth in there. So that's a good one. I like that one. It's a toggle switch, so it's clicking itself this way or that way. Some of these are the rod just pushes into a little box with the wires in it, and you know it hasn't got that snap action at all. It's just pushing, and sometimes they don't push enough or something. You get a lot of trouble with the on-off switch. Okay, so I guess I don't see that I should really apply much more grease here. I'd like to get some up in there. Get a grease stick. Right up in here. Oh, can't get at it anywhere but right here. Okay. Good. Now. A lot of record players of this age, these things are just glued together. They need a lot of work to get them operating, and all the little bits and pieces need to be made to operate. And what am I doing with this? So first of all, this is, it says motor oil, not engine oil, and not 3-in-1 household oil. Here, it has to say motor oil, because that ensures it's synthetic. Special blend of high-grade oils is equivalent to so-and-so. Formulation ideal lubricating moving parts of electric motors, pneumatic tools, lawnmowers, and much more. It doesn't actually say. Oh, maybe I've been. Once again, I'm not telling the truth. But I certainly read that somewhere. What? A WD-40 company? What? They compete with themselves? Okay. Drip some of this oil somewhere. I'm just anxious. Oh, I know what it is. I'm going to do the motor bearing. Okay, so the motor bearing is designed to be relubricated, and it'll seat down properly again. The bearing cover off here. It's actually the bearing is in this. Now, you know, the record player is upside down, so normally the weight of the rotor is pushing on this. It's sitting on it basically. The lower bearing is important in these motors more than the upper bearing. The upper bearing is actually a shaft. Oops. It's actually a shaft going through. And that's the shaft that has the various diameters on it for speed, right? So you have to lubricate this this bearing part. But this is different. This part back here, different here. Straight up. I think the screw is still in. Come on. Something's really gripping it here. What's happening? So, I can see what's happening. Normally, these are driven down into, whoops, it's again bad camera work. These are driven down into fixed nuts that are somehow fixed. There's a loose nut there. So I'm loosening this. The nut has come loose and is hanging lower now. The screw's not going to come out. Is the other one the same? This is not normal. This is a bit of a problem. And then putting this back together is a challenge. And the other one's exactly the same. I gotta stop now and think. Is this worth doing? There's actually quite a problem with putting that, it's already a problem. Putting the nut back on down there. It's way under here. Wow. Can I separate this completely? I think we're in for a rough ride. ride. I mean, you know, it's just a matter of how long it would take to get the nut back on. It would eventually get on there one way or another, but it might take like an hour. So, jeepers creepers. Decisions. What to do here? I can always throw a little lubricant up this way, you know, without taking this right off. Somehow. I can't decide. I take one side off and just swing it over. Like this side I can get back on pretty easily, relatively easily. Let's try that. Still have to raise it up high enough to get it off the motor shaft. Get the screw out. Okay, swing it over. There we are. Okay. Now what kind of trouble have I caused here? The nut is just laying there. That's fine. So you can see on the motor, it's been drilled, and that's to balance the motor after they build it. Make it very, very balanced. If the motor's not balanced, it's spinning along. It's going to cause a shake. You're going to hear that. It's going to be like a whir or a tone. It's going to be driven right up through the platter, right up through the record into the needle. It's going to come out the speaker. So it's really important to get this right. There's the top bearing, which is just a rounded piece. We really can't see what's under here, can we? Can I possibly? Let's just try something here. Is it possible for me to hold the nut this way? There's something more up there too. It's not just a nut. Yeah, I think I'd be foolish to take this right off. I think I'm in for a really tough time trying to put it back together. So leave it like this. I'm going to try to. We can use a camera. I can use a mirror, for crying out loud, for seeing up there. Okay, I've got it right side up here. Not too much to see. I'm going to drip a little bit of that oil in there. Easier said than done. Oh, that was more than a little. A lot of oil in there. I'm going to have to get some of that out with a little bit of paper towel, because I think it's going to pour out. Well, actually it's going to sit in there, isn't it? As long as you don't turn the turntable upside down anymore. You see, I get a little bit of it out anyway. Doesn't really matter, I don't think. Just a sort of rule not to have excess oil. And that got some of it right there. Okay, so now I got to put that back together, and I think I'm going to do it from here. Right like this. Now the screw is here. The nut fell out somewhere. There it is. Good. Okay. nut is captured in there. I think it is. So the nut is in a fixture, it can't turn. That means I could have taken this right apart, but I won't now. Yeah, that's right, so they had the nut in a capture situation here. Okay, now I get a little better grip on it. Okay. Now I think we want to fiddle with the overarm lubrication here a little bit. That's very typical of these things, making that kind of sound. I want to get a little bit of oil in there. Just a wee bit. Okay, let me see. This piece is quite loose in the shaft here. I don't think it needs lubrication. It's all kind of loosey-goosey stuff. So right here you can see the ramp that's used to change the position of the now that last one's a little tough. This could be a rotating piece here. Yep, there's a rotating piece and it's rotating. That's great. So there's actually a roller rolling along this and it's definitely lubricated. I'm going to give it just another shot here. Want a little bit on there. The angle's not good for using this kind of container. Phooey. Where's that little brush? Put a little oil on my brush here. And just brush it on. Get some up in there. Yeah, this is heavily oiled. I wonder. Put a little bit up in there. Good. Now, we got to take the platter off, and we've done the underneath. Now we need to do the over the top part here. Over the top part. This is pretty rough in here too. Just a little wee bit. Okay, it's up and over. Let's make sure the plug is out. Now, most of these players, the platter comes off pretty much the same way. There's a cover, and then there's an E-clip under it. So usually the case. This is going to come off too. The whole thing come off. I'm looking for a ring or something, maybe a split ring that can be. Yeah, it's a split ring. It's just the split is behind the shaft here. I'm not exactly sure how to dig it out of there. There it goes. There's the ring. Don't want to lose that. That platter should come off. Oh, lucky break. Sometimes it's a monster to get these off at this point. Heat and everything, but this one came right off. Very nice. And what was that? What was that? Okay, so something sounded important, fell on my floor. I know where it is though, it's on the floor. So we'll look at the inside of the rim. This is where a lot of the traction takes place. It really looks kind of fine. Certainly don't want to get my oily fingers in there. Now we're getting more down to the business area here. So here's the motor shaft, and as I was telling you, there's varying diameters on it. And here we have the what's called the intermediate wheel. Some people call this the idler, but I think the proper name is intermediate wheel. It's intermediate between the drive shaft and the inside of the drum. So if we change speeds, we should see this change height. Things are out of sorts. Some of these settings, it'll be touching the proper diameter here and rubbing against this down here, and that causes speed variations. So the height of this is very important. The precise height can be adjusted with little washers above and below here. So now we need to know if this rubber is good. Now, a lot of these record players, the rubber here has become so hard it's actually slippery, and it causes a lot of drive problems. This one seems okay, so I'm just going to push the screwdriver in to feel how flexible this is. Pretty slippery. I'm also feeling the friction. I can feel it here and compare it here. This is pretty smooth here. Now the wheel is driving. Let me push it into here and watch how much the wheel compresses. It's not bad, you know. It's not bad. I don't know if we should fool with this. I can see that it's shiny on the surface here, which is a bad sign. A nail is one of the best things to use to test this. Your nail is hooked up to your finger. Your finger is hooked up to your brain. That's really handy. So this definitely has some grip. It's definitely grabbing my nail. So if there's a problem here, the solution is to remove this, put it on a spindle like I use a drill, spin it, and then grind the outside a little bit. The diameter of this doesn't matter. The intermediate wheel diameter does not affect the speed ultimately. So you can grind away a little bit on the outside. I'm just not sure this one really needs it. I should have done a drive test before taking the platter off. Maybe I'll throw it back on. Turn the record player on, get the platter going, then you put your finger on it and apply drag and feel how much drag you can put on it before the platter stops. Interesting arrangement here, eh? You can also now lubricate the top of the the top bearing of the motor. Don't do it with a little drop on the brush here. I want to get it. Oil travels. Get down there. So the oil travels up onto here. That's not too good. Fortunately, gravity is going to be working in our favor there. So the oil should not travel up. I'm going to do the how much slippage there is. Now sometimes you put these on, the wheel is sticking out under here. You can't get it on. You just turn it. It'll kind of draw the wheel, kind of push the wheel in a little bit. There we can see the wheel. See, it's making intermittent contact. We have to play the machine to get this to work properly. Okay. This is up. It will think there's a record. It will attempt to play it. I will grab the tone arm at the last minute. We're good to go here? Yep. Okay, so there's no record. The two record detector size detectors didn't get triggered, so it came in on what it thinks. I guess it's a 10-inch, not 4. I don't know. 5-inch? I don't know. Small 45. 45 record. Now I don't want to put this down. I just put this back here. Now we'll do the drag test. So I'm just going to drag with my finger and feel it. Experience tells me whether this is a good or bad. It's not the best. I mean, a lot of them you just barely touch and they'll come to a stop. That's pretty good, but it does slip. Well, if I'm trying to make this record player last for another 20 years without attention, I think we're going to have to grind that wheel. It makes a huge difference. And it's not a high-risk operation, even though it might sound like it, when you see how I do it. I'm going to take this E-clip off and do my best not to lose it. Put it over here with my highly important parts that I'm slowly losing. There's a washer here. It's very important to not lose it. It's one washer on top. And pop this guy off. Look out, see, I'm halfway to losing the washer on the bottom. How many washers? Just one? Okay, so it's just one. So they haven't done anything funny here with like 5 washers on the bottom and 1 on the top. I'm going to put that right back on. So when you look at the edge of the wheel, you see it's quite shiny. When you look at the side of the wheel, it doesn't have the shine. I would suggest that when this wheel was original, it didn't shine this side either. That's been chemically altered, mechanically altered. I think we're going to grind it. So to grind it, I have to find a screw that's going to fit in here just nicely. Okay, I'm going to attend to that. I'll get all set for the grinding. So this one is a very, very small shaft. It took me a long time to find a screw. Put a lock washer on it there. This is very small. Very, very tiny. Lock this in pretty tight. That's what the lock washer's for. tight. Yeah, such a small screw. I think that's tight enough. Let's see if I can do the next stage here with it. There's not much sticking out. So the shaft is a little bit bigger than the screw, so it's a wee bit off center here. It's causing it to. I think that'll be okay though. This is a fairly crude operation. There's no real precision required for what I'm about to do with it. Okay, I just need a little bit of sandpaper and some bench space. Ay, what's happening here? The bench is getting all messed up. Okay. Right through the window. Here's how you do it. Make sure you don't have it on an angle like this. Came loose right away. I think it came loose because of the way I'm spinning it. Yeah, I can't tighten it. Let's try it again. So I got it partially ground already. You can see the shine is off of it. It's just a little bit more and I'm done. Okay, let's try that. Really wobbly, but again, it won't matter. I just change directions. No. Darn it. Practically done. It's just not tight enough. Okay, that's pretty tight. Okay, try her again. There we go. Now you see there's zero shine. It looks the same as the side now. I've ground off the hard stuff. Okay, that's it. That's all that involves. A little more effort setting it up than actually doing it. Some of these wheels you have to grind a lot off. This one just the very slight surface, but some of them there's quite a shell that's built up on them. And this makes a huge difference on a lot of record players. This is the problem. This thing is the problem. Why, for instance, when it goes to lift the tone arm, it can't. Everything comes to a halt. It's because the rim is slipping on this, and it's just not going anywhere any further. Usually find the records don't play at a steady speed, things like that. All because of this guy. Now, if one of these is so bad that you can't do what I just did to it, you can get new ones. There's a guy in Montreal who's making these new. But I couldn't tell you if he has this particular one. Hey, now that's an interesting question. In my little box of goodies, what did I do with it? There it is. Do I have that particular one? So yeah, I have some idle wheels here in my kit. Don't know that these are new. Okay, different size shaft. This one's got a similar shaft size. Maybe. Oh, we got lots of ones. Brand new in the bag. Hey, phono drive wheel, $2.07. I don't know what I got. Great. Throw this guy back on. Left the washer on there. On the top. And now the E-clip. So these guys can be real monsters. You take them off or put them on, they can go flying. And this one's so small, it could fly, hit something, and not even make a sound. It would just be gone. You don't want that to happen. My technique here, not a particularly recommended technique, is to very precisely position the plier snap it on like that. That's how I do it. Once in a while. Say goodbye. Wow, this is so small. So now what we need to do now is put the platter back on and give it the traction test. That's what we should be calling it. Sitting on the wheel. Now it's not. So here's a good sign right here. It won't go backwards. So you're kind of jamming things when you turn these things backwards, and they tend to lock up. This one's perfect. Just look at that. Excellent. Okay, so we'll give it a test now. Do the drag test. Since I use my finger and all that, I know what to expect here. Power on. Okay, look, I'm having trouble stopping it. In fact, look, it's not stopped. It slowed everything down. It's still in drive contact through here. Thumbs up. That'll never be a problem now. Not in our lifetimes. Okay, so we've got a new needle. Lubrication, traction. Oh, I gotta snap in the holding ring. Like, if you don't put this ring in, sooner or later somebody's gonna turn the record player upside down. And getting these on, it's probably harder than getting it off. Especially it's kind of down in there. I don't know, I'll try this. No. If I try to put the middle down and then pop in the wings here. Probably the builders of this had a tool. They probably slid a tool down and pop it in just like that. What are the chances I got something like that? Nothing. No chance. Okay, so I'm going to fiddle with this for a while and it'll eventually get in there. I should have kept the camera going. So that's a split ring like this. And what I eventually did was I took this is not a terribly wide, but a somewhat wide screwdriver. I was able to touch both ends of the loop, push it down, and push it kind of down into where the groove is, roughly. And then go right on the other side here with another screwdriver, right, with this one pushing it down, and push on this. Even though this side started opening a bit, this was wide enough to keep the ends in, and it popped right in, pop, just like that. It was actually really quite easy in the end. That's the technique that I used. Ooh, that's a mistake. So part of the purpose of the pad here is to isolate the record from the platter, because the platter is in contact mechanically with the motor and other things, the motor in particular. So sound can come up right through the platter, right up into the record. This is a sad attempt to reduce that a little bit. If you put some nice foam on there, it'd probably be even better. The other thing about these record players, there's a class. This is a class of record player. Has a spring-loaded tone arm for weight. Right, there's a spring system in here, right back here. The weight is not adjusted by balance. It's adjusted by a spring. That's a notch down in quality. That's how all these were done back then. Later they came with balanced tone arms, and the reason for that was to lighten this up a lot, so the amount of force here was greatly reduced. They could put very delicate cartridges on them, and the delicate cartridge could produce better and better fidelity as the records got better and better. One of the improvements in the fidelity is the reproduction of the bass. If this were to reproduce the bass really, really well, all you'd hear is the rumbling of this turntable coming out of your speakers. So in fact, this kind of record player, a rim drive record player, with this kind, like this whole deal here, you cannot expect really good bass reproduction out of it. That's my opinion. Or you're going to be hearing all this rumbling. So if you're looking at consoles and you're out looking at one and you see one like this, spring loaded. Now you know the stereo, that may not mean anything, but spring loaded, jeepers. Let's keep looking for one that's got a balanced tone arm. This vintage is going to all be spring loaded like this. The problem, another further problem, is if the cartridge in here is defective, and this one isn't, which is really good. If it was defective, you had to replace it. You couldn't replace it with a modern cartridge because they're looking for a very light tone arm. This won't do it. You got to get another kind of crappy, rugged cartridge in here. Plus, the output of these old cartridges is very high. The voltage level is very high, like almost a volt will come out of some of these. So you don't need much of an amplifier to get you all the way to having the speaker operate. But the newer ones with the balanced tone arm and the light, fragile cartridge produce very, very, very low voltages. Now those need to be amplified a lot. So that's where this concept of the preamp showed up. You could use your old crystal amplifier, stick a preamp in, stick in a different kind of cartridge, but not in this. Not in this. Hey, we never did try this switch here. Ooh, there's a letter there, S. What would S stand for? S, silent? Silence? S? Why would you want that? Single? Single channel? Stereo. Oh, stereo, of course. The S means stereo. Okay, so in the S position, this switch is doing nothing. If you move it here, I'll bet you that then shorts the two outputs. This is how they've done it. So, but if you push it all the way, which is what anybody would do, then the contact has gone right past here. Mind you, it's making contact with another little thing out here. Maybe that's all part of it. We will experiment. So S could stand for stereo, it could stand for shorting the two channels together. Okay, all its secrets are revealed. Let me play a record here. Power on. This will be the new needle test. Didn't I test it already? New lubrication test. So, even just playing it through my sound system here, which, if this were producing excellent bass, you would hear it. It's not there, is it? It's never going to be there. Probably sound a lot better on the bigger speakers. Probably sound not like it's really lacking bass, but it is. Let's go in here. Sounds very good. Let me just turn it up a little bit here. Oh, I apologize for that. My headphone volumes and your listening volume are two different matters here. So I keep my eye on my level meters. Level meters. Overload. Not working. Danger, Jim. Pick up. Ooh, that was interesting. That sound. That was kind of odd. I'm going to hear that again. Let's just let it do its thing here. Okay, so the overarm is down, so it won't replay. It'll just shut off. Excellent. What was that funny sound right at the end of this record? I want to find that out. So let's start it up again. So see, I've moved the tone arm over where it's held up, so it will think it's dropping a record, and it will try to play it. It's going to come in here though. Now, you may have heard just at the last minute, it started playing, and then just at the last minute, you're clicking the mechanism, and the speed actually increased ever so slightly. And that's the mechanism, this, moving the tone, releasing. So it's had no contact with the motor, the idle wheel, or the platter. So it kind of comes out, engages, does its thing, and then it releases. Because you can't have mechanisms hooked up to the platter while it's spinning. Okay, so I wanted to hear the very end of this record. At the same time, I don't want to ruin it with a copyright hit. So I'm going to knock down the volume here. Well, I'm going to turn it up quite high just as it comes right to the end. Okay, so hopefully what we're hearing now is, you know what, this is going to go over my video. I have to interrupt it. I will get a copyright hit from this. But not if I keep interrupting it. Here we go. Ha! wonder how many people ever heard that last little bit. Okay, enough fun. Record player, excellent. Needle, excellent. Cartridge, working. Oh, stereo switch. Okay. Let me just let's deal with that. I'll put this back here. Now we are hooked up. Oh, how can I tell? So I'm gonna try to drop one track because we're just listening to one channel here. Throwing the switch, and I gotta throw it while it's playing. Oh my gosh! And I gotta do it all so quick we don't get a copyright hit. Hey, one solution to that is to play the record at the wrong speed. Let's take it up to 45. Can't get a copyright hit if you play a record at the wrong speed. And what we're trying to do is detect stereo, non-stereo. We're only going to hear mono at any time. So actually it's not stereo, it's both tracks or only one track. That's what we're trying to identify. Better work the volumes here. How are we ever going to recognize it? Can you need a song with real separate music on channels? I don't know how we could even. I'm not familiar with the music, especially playing it at 45. Okay, so we got to imagine S means stereo, and we don't want it there. We got to imagine it's got to be here. That is actually two possible positions. One is right on top of this terminal. Oop, right here. Oh, that's a good way to test it. So it looks like this little tab is the same thing. Don't you want to bet that tab's been bent from somebody driving this thing too hard? And it's really just supposed to lock you right here. It's supposed to stop you right there. How much you want to bet? If I bend this back, I fixed it. Ooh, don't go too far. You know, bend those things a couple times, they break off. There we are. Now we're in business. Now it makes sense. Stereo, you want it there. Even though it doesn't seem to do anything, that's where it should be. Okay, the last secret. Mr. Telefunken. Your secrets are all known. And now just an interesting, curious thing here. Just turn the power off. This sticker. I'll just put this here. The sticker here. It's in German. And obviously it's an instruction on this. Oh, it's in English too. Start, reject, stop. I guess they're trying to say start and reject is up here and stop is here. Reject. Why in heaven's name do they call it reject? My thinking on this is back in the day when there were only 78 records. These 78 records spinning at such a high speed only had one song on a side. So you want to play 5 songs? You stack 5 records. This is pretty high. You can stack more than 5 on here. Hey, your friends are coming over. You stack 5, 6, 7 records on there. The third record comes down and starts playing, and your buddy says, "Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that record." So don't worry. I have the ability to reject that record. Then you flip the reject button, and the needle will come over, and the next record come down. It will have essentially rejected the record. I guess that's the only word they could come up with. Well, what other word would you use for that? Deselect? Throw out. So I think there was like a paucity of words and they picked reject. And here we are so many years later playing not 78s, not a stack of 578s, generally playing one LP at a time, generally dropping one record. There's really no reason to drop one record, right? It's for dropping multiple records. And we ask ourselves over and over, at least I did all my life, reject. Where'd they come up with that word? Okay, so that's the end of my talk. I've done a lot more talk than work today. Turntable's in excellent shape. Thanks a lot for watching, and I guess I'm going to put this back in the stereo and try it out and then make some decisions about bringing the receiver in here. I'm not sure I'm going to do that. And okay, see ya.